Faces and voices that are familiar to Chicagoland viewers, frequent visitors to our homes. Chicago's top TV pitchmen. How have they achieved such fame? What makes their low-budget commercials a terrific success? That story on Chicago Tonight with John Calloway. This evening on Chicago Tonight, veteran TV pitchman Linn Burton, Lynn Haldren, and Al Parker critique the world of television commercials with host, substituting for vacationing John Calloway, Bruce Dumont.
Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. This evening for the next 30 minutes, we'll meet television's best pitchmen, the familiar faces and voices who try to get us to buy, and buy. Of special interest tonight are the masters of what we call the low-budget TV commercial.
I'm Al Eisen. I invented an automatic toilet bowl cleaner called 2000 Flushes because cleaning the toilet is a lousy job. Nobody likes it.
Although low-budget commercials may not win any awards, the ability of a client to saturate the market usually makes them a success. And with saturation also comes recognition and stardom for the men and women chosen to make the pitch.
Goodbye, your baby.
If I can't beat your best deal before you buy a new Ford, Dodge, or Datsun, I'll give you triple the difference back in cash.
Hi, I'm so excited about our Rogers & Holland Spring Diamond Sale.
Hello again. I'm Paul Finnemore for Hairline Creations. The results are in from a national survey that proved women prefer men with hair.
You can't beat our deal, whatever you choose, or we'll give you back the difference in cash.
The undisputed king of Chicago low-budget commercials is Linn Burton, longtime voice of Burt Wyman Ford, the TV Ford man.
Here's the third reason. It's also the grandest grand opening ever of our newly expanded facilities to serve you better and save you more.
Al Parker, another veteran pitchman, is the voice of Nelson Brothers and a man who also has a way with carpets.
Do you like the ankle-deep feel of ultra-luxurious carpeting?
Another carpet master is Lynn Haldren, the Empire Man, whose soft sell approach bucks the tradition of low-budget spots.
If you're in the market for carpeting, give us a call. We'll be out within hours to your house with all our samples. That's a promise.
Hey, Grandpa! I'm ready.
588-2300 Empire.
Rotten kid.
Linn Burton, what is the key to your success and longevity in this business?
Just being a person that's sincere about the true honesty of anybody that I pitch.
What about the voice and the inflection? I mean, people have described you as the Paul Harvey of auto painting when you were doing the Apcoa commercials. I mean, you have a sincerity that a lot of spokesmen do not have. Did that just come naturally to you?
Don't have me answer anything. Just keep talking. I like the way, I like the way you woke up this morning to talk about me. No, I think a lot of the inflection, whatever it is, people have told me that it's an offbeat. I pause where I shouldn't to gain that little inflection on some words that appear important to me, and I think a lot of it reverts back to my dad. He was a Methodist minister.
Al, how did you develop your style that is so distinctive?
Started in radio while I was still in high school. It really began with the Board of Education station here in town, WBZ, and as we were chatting before in your green room, I don't think I'd be in this business if it weren't for that little radio station. And the problem became saying X number of words in a given period of time, clearly, precisely. That became the challenge. And then in the days of the live TV commercial that just went on, the big problem was to say as much as you could so that it didn't seem as though you were hitting anyone over the head. You really weren't. You were just doing it in almost a staccato sort of a delivery and yet try to give it a casual approach at the same time. That's an odd blend, but I think I tried very hard to combine that, work at that.
Would you agree that fast talking is synonymous with low-budget commercials? Because Lynn Haldren, you, as I said in that piece that we just saw, you're bucking the trend.
Not a fast talker, no.
There's the guy who does the
Slow
Federal
and easy.
Express commercials. He's the guy. He's the champion there. But no, I kind of backed into this, Bruce, because my business is writing and producing broadcast commercials. And the Empire people, we were looking for someone to be an installer and do the pitch to give the campaign some continuity. And they asked me if I'd try it, and I said, sure. I just backed into it that way.
Now, you also wrote the jingle, which
Yes,
is
I
one
did.
of the most identifiable jingles on Chicago television.
Well, it's heard enough, I guess that's why. But yes, I did, and that's my vocal group who sings it, by the way, the Fabulous 40s.
I'd like to get back to Linn Burton and find out about the whole issue of soft sell, because you were quoted in an article a couple of years ago saying that because of your image as Mr. Hard Sell, that maybe you'd like to change that image and do a little soft sell commercial once in a while. Have you ever talked with the folks over at Burt Wyman? Would they ever let you do a laid-back, Garraway-esque type commercial?
If I may, I'd like to revert back to a few years when I started Polk Brothers. One afternoon, Saul said, Linn, he says, Arthur Godfrey is selling more merchandise. Let's do the commercials in an Arthur Godfrey style. And I said, Saul, okay. I did the first commercial, Arthur Godfrey style. Not imitating him, but in a soft sell.
Laid back.
And the phones didn't ring. Saul was on the phone right after the first commercial. He says, Linn, get back into the solid sell. Got back into the solid sell. Phones lit up like a Christmas tree.
That really is the key to the success of your commercials, is it not? Whether the phones ring or not. I think, Linn, you said in an article that you can know within 5 minutes whether your commercial has been a hit or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is the only kind of business you can do that in. You can really measure your advertising, this direct response business. And if the phones don't begin ringing in 5 minutes or so, you've got a bomb. So you can go to something else.
Now, one of the things that we mentioned with Al Parker, although you do not do a lot of on-air work, your voice, the voice of Nelson Brothers, is probably one of the most identifiable voices. And what is the most identifiable line in that? Is it the pictures on the wall to the carpets on the floor?
You got it. You want a job? That's it.
I can't deliver it as fast as you can.
We'll work at it.
But the other thing that people listening to this program may be familiar with, they're certainly familiar with your voice, having been a longtime staff announcer since 1963 at Channel 7.
Right.
You were also the voice of the 10 o'clock news.
Give us
a little news opening, if you will.
A real, honest-to-goodness
live
time capsule keeping news opening.
Do it.
Okay. Basically, that's the same thing for all of the newscasts, and now there are 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 and 10 p.m., but they all go pretty much like this. This is Channel 7 Eyewitness News with John Drury, Marianne Childers, Steve Deschler with weather, Tim Weigel on sports, and the Eyewitness News team. This is Eyewitness News. And we had an executive producer at the station who would call and ask me to read that to him on the phone. I said, you've got to be kidding. This was before we taped them. And he said, no, I'd like a little more anxiety in that. And I really think that, of course, I think it's ridiculous, but I really think that they thought that the way the news intro was handled would to a great extent determine the success of that program. I think that's nonsense. I don't think that has anything to do with it at all. It's exciting, and maybe it, for that initial moment with the mood music that is also exciting, it will capture an audience, but I think it's the content of the news show, not the intro, that's going to do it.
Do you, despite your success, do you still continue to fine-tune what you do, Linn Burton, or do you feel that you have your act down pat right at the moment?
Oh, I don't think any of us ever feel that we have ourselves and what we do down pat. I think, of course, I don't become nervous now when I go in to do the commercials, but I like to study them, primarily for timing.
How long does it take you to do a Burt Wyman Ford commercial? You usually go over to WGN, every Friday afternoon and do the weekend spots? How long does it take you to do the, 4 or 5 different spots that you will do for a week?
We do 3 2-minute off-camera commercials. In that, with those 3, I'm usually in and out, having played them back to make sure there was no flaws in the tape and the like. I'm out of there in about 15 minutes once we start.
One take Burton. That's what you're known as.
Well,
you do it pretty quick. You don't waste the client's money.
Well, I try not to.
Selling cars has become so easy for you. Is it easier to sell a car than the first bulletproof Bible that you ever had to sell? Can you tell us that story?
Well,
and glow in the dark gardenias, and that's some of the other things that you've sold on television?
You make me uncomfortable. No, well, radio was an entirely different approach to selling. Back in those days, I think you had to have a little more larceny in your soul, didn't you, Al?
Well, I think
with radio?
I think you had to work harder at it in radio because you were selling a product, you were creating a picture. We had to use adjectives, and you can wave your arms on television, and maybe that'll have some effect, but on radio, I think you're right. I found that I would get into the commercial with body movements, despite the fact that no one was looking at the commercial. I think you're right. It had to be exaggerated to a far greater degree.
Do you have to use different types of words? I know you've created radio and television, Linn. Do you write differently for radio than you do for television?
I don't think so, but you certainly write differently for radio and television than you do for print advertising, because you're writing print, you're writing for the eye, you're writing radio, you're writing for the ear. And, but between television and radio, I don't think so.
You know, we have dubbed this program low-budget commercials, and I'd like to talk about that because in the case of Empire Carpets, you do a lot of those commercials right in your own home, do you not?
Some of them we do, yes. We do some of them in studio also, about half and half perhaps.
What is the difference in a budget between the type of commercial that you would do for Burt Wyman and, I mean, how much does a commercial like that cost to produce?
I haven't gone into that at all because I haven't felt that it's any of my business, and I really don't know.
As long as your check is in the mail, that's okay.
It has been for 21 years.
You mentioned before a conversation you had at one point with Sal Polk insofar as when he suggested that maybe you should do a soft sell Arthur Godfrey commercial. There was one time in the glory days or the golden days of Chicago television when you could do commercials for, what, 5, 10, 15 minutes at a crack. You almost died doing a commercial on a couple of occasions. You were standing on your head for one, and you got your tie caught in a ringer on the other. Tell us about that.
Well, those were the fun days.
That's right.
In television.
No homogenized television.
No, because I think the shortest commercial I did in the old days with Polk Brothers was 4.5 minutes. The longest was an 18.5-minute commercial when I said, "And now to the conclusion of our picture," and up came the end slide. And
you mean they would keep the movie rolling?
Oh, they'd
in
keep
the
them
old
rolling
days?
in the old days, yeah. Otherwise, we'd have been there all night the way I was doing commercials. But I did. One of the worst things that was ever committed on the Polk Brothers was when the stagehands knew that I would attempt to do something special, because I felt in those early days that you had to come up with some little gimmick. And there was a washing machine thing that was coming on. So they had put a 50-pound keg of ice in a tub of water in the morning. And they let it sit there. They didn't bring the tub in. I had asked for a tub because I had in my mind something that I want to do, like in India, they slap the clothes on the rocks and things of that nature. Little did I know what they'd prepared for me. So the tub comes in just when I'm ready to do the commercial. And the commercials were written, but I never could follow the commercial. It was always ad lib. Nothing, just the commercial was written for FCC rulings.
And they'd never let you do that nowadays.
No,
you could never
no,
ad lib a commercial.
You can't today. So I lifted one foot, put it in, and I didn't take my shoes off or anything. And that ice water hit my foot and started going into the shoe. The first thing I thought of, lift the leg out, straddle the tub, and continue with the pitch. As my foot hit the other side on the flooring, it went out. I sat down. I went, oh.
Sat down on the ice.
No, they removed the ice, and the water just a frigid ice cold.
You know, those who watch what you do day in and day out, or night in and night out for the most part, they probably think what you do is easy, that you stand in front of a camera and you either memorize something or you read something or you sit and you look to the camera and look very sincere as you do, Linn, and talk about Empire Carpets. But And they think it's so easy, they think they can do it. And there are a lot of schools that have popped up that are going to offer some advice on how people can get started. And one such school in the city of Chicago is called Act One. And this is a school where whether you're a housewife or you're a steel worker or you're a hotel manager or whatever you're doing, they think that they can make you a star. Well, recently we sent our reporter Ron Burler out to one of these schools, the Act One school, and he filed this report. So let's take a look at it. Ron?
Meet the nearly famous Carol Winterstrom. No, she's not a TV star yet, but she has plans.
Curls, permed and fragile hair dry more naturally. Like air drying, only faster.
Curls, permed, and fragile hair dry more naturally, only faster.
Carol Winterstrom is a 30-year-old suburban housewife with a dream.
I want to be a marvelously wonderful star, just like everybody else does. I may settle for a little bit less than that.
And so she came here to Act One, a school for anyone who's seen Mr. Whipple squeeze the Charmin and thought, I can do that. A school where for $300 and 8 weeks of your time, you can learn everything from saying, it's new, to how to hold the sponsor's product to the camera. Robin Vance and Amy Sunshine run Act One. As actresses and talent agents, they've seen a lot of Carol Winterstroms at commercial auditions. They started their school 3 years ago to give would-be commercial actors a competitive edge.
The type of students that come here are very varied. We have a good deal of performers with a theatrical or miscellaneous performance background. We also get a number of students who have always been enamored of the business but never were willing to take the plunge.
Mike Mangano took the plunge and wound up in a Sealy Posturepedic spot. Venture hired Kathleen Holly.
So I get out quicker.
And Holly Hale pitched perfume for Marshall Field.
If you have curls, you know the problem. I'm starting again. Okay.
Carol's pretty sure that she'll work too, even though she's up against over 2,000 other people looking to get into commercials. To lessen the odds, Robin and Amy offer acting classes that seem more like encounter sessions.
It was all right. One thing I noticed that I did do, or I didn't do, was look at the camera through the whole first line.
Which tells you what? How do you solve that problem? That's going to happen to you.
There's nothing like getting in front of the camera, having an honest critique of how you did, and having somewhat of an audience. I think it's been very helpful, and it has been challenging.
It's also been very expensive. So far, Carol's spent over $2,000 on acting classes, photographs, and speech lessons. It's been a major investment that's gone beyond money. Act One has taken a lot of time and effort, and Carol hopes it'll pay off.
I've been told that I have the look. I know commercials are very lucrative if I can make it in commercials, and I think that will provide me some form of support while I pursue other things in acting.
And so, the nearly famous Carol Winterstrom remains just that, nearly famous. Her fate is now in the hands of the city's casting directors. But her experience at Act One just might make her future in TV commercials a bit more certain.
Carol, I think, will work. No guarantees, but she should.
Lynn Haldren, as a producer, as a writer, what do you think of schools like this, and not specifically this school, but a variety of other schools that try to teach people how to act in television commercials?
I think they're fine. I think you need some innate talent for it. You need to have a good ear and reasonably good voices. You don't have to have the big, good voices anymore today, but I think they serve a purpose.
Al Parker, your reaction?
I think these people would be better off going to small market radio and TV stations. They don't even have to leave Chicago. There are so many fringe stations, radio stations, the Channel 26s, 32s. They can't afford to pay a lot of big bucks to a number of people. It's amazing how sometimes you can get a job maybe in the perimeter of the area you really want to ultimately wind up in. You can learn a lot by just observing some of the professional people work. I don't think 8 weeks is enough time to really do much of anything.
Linn Burton, what do you think?
Well, in the early days, you had to pay the station owners in the smaller markets anywhere from $35 to $50 a week to learn your trade. Today, in these smaller markets, they're paying them. And I got news for you. It isn't going to take you very long to find out whether you've got it or you haven't. Because in just a few weeks, you're either in or you're out.
When did you realize that? Your first job was what, with WJJD back in about 1937?
No. I won't discuss years with you. I'm stubborn. But no, I started with, which is now WAIT.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never walked into a radio station. There were 250 fellows that auditioned for it. Amongst the three, I was one of the three. They asked how much we wanted. I said, I want $35 a week. The other two guys said $25 a week. I happened to win. A couple of weeks later, I was fired by the owner because I was getting shows off 15 minutes late. You ran everything, you know.
It's very fashionable to be fired by WAIT.
But you see things, Bruce,
these
happens to the best of us.
These are different calls.
Bruce and both Lynn's, things were crazy then because you could learn by merely being around. I was working radio and a agency fellow I did some work for. I did a little TV at that time, and he assumed I knew a lot about television. And he was panicked. He got a call from a client who was in the insurance business who wanted to buy a television show. And in those days, you could buy the whole package for about $800–900. The talent, the airtime, everything, the artwork. And so he said, can you put a half-hour show together for me? $75 a week. I said, sure. I went home and told my wife about it. She said, how are you going to do it? I said, we'll do it. So she said, what's the program? I said, it's called The Helping Hand. She says, oh, that sounds like a noble program. The idea is to help people in distress. Well, it's so crazy. First woman we had on the program had lost her husband, and hardly a funny story, had lost her home, and the only gift we had for her was a necklace. And so we gave her the necklace. No one laughed. And you know who our announcer on that program was? Pierre Andre. And the poor gal who was our hostess kept referring to him as Andre Pierre. So it was a wonderful time. I got another quick 60-second story that I must tell you.
Can you hold it? Can you hold it for just a second?
We'll be back in a moment.
We'll be back in a moment, but first, we have to pause, and we're going to do that. Don't touch
go
that
away.
dial. We continue on Chicago Tonight with television's best TV pitchmen and Al Parker. I told you we've got to tell your minute story in 45
seconds. Okay.
Go.
It was funny working with the clients who did their own commercials. One guy hosted, and he's still in business, so let him be anonymous, hosted an amateur hour. I was the warm-up announcer, and I also did the commercials with him on camera. First contestant was a little 12-year-old girl who was going to play the violin. The little girl came out, applause, applause. First mistake the client made was in saying to the little girl, "Ah, Susie, I see you play a fiddle." If looks could have killed, he would have dropped right there because the kid was playing a violin, not a fiddle. And I heard her rehearsing, and she was playing the Andante Cantabile. And I knew that the client was having a problem with this. So I said, "Can I put that down on a card for you phonetically?" He said, "No, I can handle that." I said, "Okay, you're on your own." Got on, is that the camera? Which one are we on? Looked right in the lens and said, "Now here's Susie with her fiddle to play the immortal Andantine Cantabile." Love it. Looked in the control room, the client, the agency guy, and after it was all over with.
Well, you know, that brings up another point that we should discuss, and that is, you know, the do-it-yourself commercial, the guy who thinks he can do it better than the pros, and there's a lot of people that are still doing that, and we're going to play some tape. I want to get your reaction to some of these people, so let's look right now to the people who make their own TV commercials, then we'll be back.
At Solozzi Edelson Chevrolet, we're finding more families are switching to Suburbans, custom vans, and conversion vans.
They're easy to drive and offer excellent comfort, and we guarantee you can't beat our deal, whatever you choose. or we'll give you back the difference in cash.
So save more money at Solozzi Edelson Chevrolet now in Elmhurst at York and Roosevelt Roads.
Jewelry designer Jewel Cadet of Rogers & Hollins.
Hi, I'm so excited about our Rogers & Hollins Spring Diamond Sale, featuring my new Charisma ring at only $488. I'm inviting you to our Spring Diamond Sale at all Rogers & Hollins jewelers.
Rockabye, baby. Hi, I'm Harry Schmerler. You can buy a new Cutlass for $12,600. Cutlass is a great car, but when you see and drive the Thunderbird, you'll be convinced it's an even better car. The $2,000 you save makes it a great deal. Schmerler Ford is at Route 83 in Toohey in Elk Grove Village.
Hello. I like this Remington microscreen rechargeable shaver so much, I bought the company. It shaves as close as a blade, or I'll give you your money back. The Remington microscreen rechargeable shaver shaves as close as a blade, or your money back.
A lot of people think America can't cut the mustard anymore, that quality counts for nothing and hard work for even less, and commitment, that went out with a hula hoop. Quality, hard work, commitment, the stuff America was made of. Without them, there is no future. I have one and only one ambition for Chrysler, to be the best. What else is there?
I'm Earl Shive. I'll paint any car, any color for just $89.95. No ups and no extras.
Earl Shive has painted more than 15 million cars.
Right. I'll paint any car, any color for just $89.95. No ups and no extras.
Linn Haldren, the best and the worst of that group.
Well, I think the Remington is the best, although you can't ignore Carl Shive. I mean, he just comes right out at you. But Iacocca, of course, that worked tremendously. Just turned the company around, you know. It was marvelous.
Al Parker.
Well, the funniest, I think I'd like to watch more of them, are Solozzi Edelson and Harry Schmerler. Jewel Cadet is the most believable, in my opinion. Victor is too smug and laughs too much, chugs along a little too much that way. Leah, I would agree with Linn, is the best. Earl Shive, there is no Earl Shive. I don't believe there is.
What about the son in the Solozzi Edelson? Is that the new generation, the second generation?
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing that. They're bringing their sons
son
into
is
the
being
act.
used by Bob Conrad in a TV thing that he's doing.
He's
right.
He's on his way to Hollywood.
So there he goes.
Linn Burton, these people are taking money right out of your mouth. What do you think of these guys?
No, I think most of them are on an ego trip. And I think...
you're kidding.
I think,
really?
Yes. I think a lot of them need the professional touch of a Linn, of an Al, and a Linn. There's a difference.
Okay. On that note, if you say so,
we
I'll
try
buy
not
it.
to be irritating. We try to be convincing.
Let's not argue
right?
with him.
You know what? You've sold me, Linn Burton, but it's not the last time you've sold me. Thank you all.
As
Linn
always.
Burton, Linn Haldren, Al Parker, thank you all for joining us
welcome.
tonight on Chicago Tonight, and we thank you very much for joining us not only tonight, but this week. We will return next Tuesday night at 10:30. Join us then. Have yourself a very good weekend. I'm Bruce Dumont, substituting for vacationing John Calloway. Good night and have a good weekend.